Good morning. This is the Park County Commission regular meeting for Tuesday, June 21st. No public hearings this morning. Is it? No scheduled public comment. Is there any public comment for items that are not on today's agenda?
I have. Is the zoning on the public comment for today?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The agenda is right behind you. There's a couple items at the end you can't see, but they're not related to zoning.
Okay.
That help?
It's coming up. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Okay, let's go to action items. Discussion decision on signing 2022-2023 IAP contract. Shannon, are you on the phone? Are they still muted down there?
No, they had gotten, she's not on the phone. I don't see them.
Okay, this is just the annual task order for the against the master services agreement with Public Health and Human Services for immunizations for children, adolescents, and adults. Public comment on this agenda.
Yes, this is Erica Strickland. So the dollar amounts match last year's. So it's our standard rollover from year to year.
Right. Thanks, Erica.
Yep.
In the back, please. And just names so we have it for the record and people who are listening in on live stream too.
Jay Copenhaver, and could you speak up a little bit, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Additional public comment? Commission discussion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we sign the 2022-2023 IAP contract.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Discussion decision on an MOU with the MSU Park County Extension and Park County Environmental Council to support PCEC landscape conservation specialist in the CWMA noxious weed monitoring work. Let's see, is Mary Ann Keys with us today? Any chance you can give us a little background, or is that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can just say that Michelle Ibarraga, Park County Environmental Council, 711 Mount Raven. This is a partnership where WMA MSU Extension needed help with weed monitoring, and so we have hired a staff person who is now working with MSU Extension in their office, and the program is going really well. A need for support in weed management, and the MSU Extension and CWMA identified that need. We were able to support that with the staff person. And so now Bethany Allen is the land specialist, and she's been doing a ton of work, a couple field days. I don't have them off the top of my head. Doing plots around the county and working with landowners. So this MOU is basically the county agreeing to allow her to work in the MSU Extension office, use a computer, drive a rig. Yeah. And we're covering her salary and her insurance, and make sure that she's insured for driving vehicles. It's just a real good example of how we can work together and get more done. So.
Thanks, Michelle. Public comment on this agenda item.
Yes, this is Erica Strickland. I was trying, and I had sent an email, but I didn't get a response to find out what the expected cost to the county was going to be. I did see there were, it had been requested that we would provide a computer and some other things. So I was just trying to get an idea for the budget because I don't believe it's in next year's budget right now. Thank you.
I don't think we have any significant cost because the computer, for example, is just lending the equipment. So.
Hi, Steve. This is Mary Ann Keys.
Hi, Mary Ann. Thanks for joining us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So the computer was purchased already this year because of the vacancy savings that we experienced because of MSU's the time schedule they filled positions on. And so I don't expect any significant cost because that ag agent position won't be filled this summer either. and neither will the 4-H one. So our travel will be down to at least 2 agents in the office for a quarter, maybe 2 quarters. So I don't expect any significant changes in the budget.
Okay, thanks,
Great.
Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Additional public comment? This is an item too that we looked at several weeks ago, and we're just waiting actually for attorney review, and that has taken place. So we have a clean bill of health on it. Commission discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we sign the MOU with the MSU Park County Extension and Park County Environmental Council to support PCEC Landscape Conservation Specialist in CWMA noxious weed monitoring work.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Passes. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate the funding and support. Discussion decision on resolution to update the Part 1 petition requirements and review process, section 76-2-101 MCA. This is an item that we had looked at a couple of weeks ago again, and I think it's in process of being drafted. And Maritza, do you want to give us a quick description of where we are?
Yeah, so Deb Pratt and I in the attorney's office have been going back and forth trying to update this draft on citizen initiated zoning and the steps involved. We had Mako, the land use attorney, review it. And her suggestions were to update guidelines on signatures, and that would be who can sign on behalf of an LLC or a trust, how many, if the property's held in, corporation, how many signatures do they get, proof of that membership or authority to sign. So she has, Karen Alley at Mako has suggested we update that. And
that language does not occur it's not contained in the current draft.
No, because we received that after it was posted. And she also suggested that we take public comment today and that we leave the public comment open for 2 more weeks before we come up with a final draft. And those public comments can be emailed to myself or mailed to my office, is how we can, if the commission decides to leave the public comment open, that's where they would go.
Okay, thanks, Maritza. So we'll take public comment on this, and if there are comments that are better provided in writing, certainly send those to the clerk and recorder's office. What we'll do is we'll take comment today and reschedule this for maybe 2 weeks out. And in the meantime, you can send written comments to us or to the clerk and recorder's office. We prefer you direct them there because that's where the draft is going on. Does that make sense? Okay, public comment on this agenda item. David.
I'm delighted with the work that Maritza and the Deputy County Attorney Deb Pratt have done. I have not seen the Mako aspect, but the part that's been done so far is just fine.
Okay, thank you, David. And that was David Stanley, just for the record.
1010 Swingley Road.
Bev Kovash, 11 Willow Drive. I reiterate my comments from last week again,
Which we have.
which you have on file.
Thank
In addition, we asked for a red line version. We've not seen a red line version of what's from the original item. And what was posted this week appears to be exactly what was posted the week prior, that there was no revisions. Is that correct?
No, that's.
No.
Yeah.
It's just too different to do a red line version. I have copies of the current and the previous one, but they're both on there. So that's the current draft there.
I just want to make sure that, are you?
I'm
Okay,
finished.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Laren.
My questions are mainly just clarification things. And number one, did the real property owners include the people holding contracts for deeds or mortgages? Because this would be clouding the title of a property. So, in my experience in buying right-of-ways, we had to have the person that had the contract or the mortgage sign off on it too, unless it's free and clear. But In number 2, A, the small I too, so map prepared by certified land surveyor, but in B, that's 2 small i's, maps of flats are only necessary when the commission divides the planning district. So that's just I think it's a semantic, I'm just mainly talking about clarifying things. Number B, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviews after the petition is submitted to the county commissioners. This is confusing because 4A, the DZC is appointed, so that it's not clear what commissions you're talking about. Are you talking about the county commission or the Planning and Zoning Commission, and when they would be defined and what role they have? In 4C, it says an affidavit of the person circulating or a notarized signature. However, in 3A, it just says notarized signature. So it has to be consistent. Is it notarized or is it a person or both? So I think that's just a missing sentence. It seems to me though, again, the process in 5A and B should be reversed. It seems like the proverbial cart may be coming ahead of the horse in terms of what commissions are talking about. So you might look at that and see if that needs to be cleared up a little bit. Other than that, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Marissa, if you didn't get all that, we'll have the recording.
Okay. And Steve, I've got one additional comment.
Please, Michelle.
And well, submit this as well, as you might have already, but just to say
It's
that.
Michelle Raga.
Oh, sorry, Michelle Ubaraya, 711 Lockleven, Park County Environmental Council. Just that the 101 district, the statute for that was written before the growth policy statute, so there's no requirement that 101 zoning districts comply with the growth policy. So our recommendation would be that you add something in there that says that, otherwise we have, this overarching visionary document for our community and zoning districts that don't comply with
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm sorry, Michelle, I'm not following. Can you back up a couple of sentences, please? I just it got kind of jumbly and you
Am I
started
talking
speaking.
too fast?
Yeah, speaking. too fast.
And just,
I will put it on the record. Of course, David, nice to see you. Yes, I'm happy to. So the simple recommendation is that 101 growth policies comply with the growth policy. There is no requirement right now because the 101 zoning statute for citizen initiated zoning existed prior to the growth policies existing. So my recommendation is that we make sure that they're the 101, the new citizen initiated zoning districts comply with the growth policy. That way we have consistency in our values and goals and administration.
Senator McHugh, we also had a written comment. We also had a written comment from Jonathan Hedeker, who made the same point, and our attorney's office advises that there is a requirement that it comply, and we'll have to clarify that.
Yeah, and with the commissioners and the Planning and Zoning Commission will review that. If it counters any county policies, it is reviewed. It's a requirement.
Please,
Ann Hollowell, Fleshman Creek. I wanted to thank Deb for simplifying and clarifying the form by the use of citations of Montana Code annotated on relative paragraphs. Would you please follow through on this by adding a citation for Montana Code annotated 76-2-1021 at 4A, please? This is under County Commission appoints a Planning and Zoning Commission, first sentence. So if you'd add that citation there too, that would be helpful for people like me who don't understand the law. I know where to go for a reference. I'm also concerned that the new application form deletes a statement that was in the previous 2004 application form, which was called D2, and it reads additional petition signature pages or withdrawal statements will be accepted for 5 days after the petition is stamped. Why has there not been included this, and why is there no mention of the possibility of withdrawal statements in the rewrite? I think that should be a consideration, particularly as there's no longer a protest allowed. And I would also say, please remember that this is an application form, not an opportunity to rewrite the law. Thank you.
And could you please, section 4A, your citation is 76-1021.
76, 102, parenthesis 1. Here, I'll give a copy of this to Carly.
Please try that. Any additional comment? Please.
I'm Frank Riggler. The reason I'm gonna go down, my son and I were gonna swap about 600 acres of hay. The people are busier than heck right now. With this flood and everything, there's been, like, we need another way out of Gardner. We're starting a petition tomorrow where that old Yellowstone Trail's gotta be opened up. Hell with the
Sorry.
railroad track.
Right, we're only taking comment on this Part 1 zoning proposal, which is citizen.
We got all these
initiated
things to take care of. Let's pause this whole thing for a while.
We're not
And
on
think,
that.
and think of the people that are hurting, involved, and trying to stay in business. And pause it for 6 months, so people can go to work and get their problem solved. You know, that's all I've got to say. I gotta leave.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
Additional public comment. This is on the Part 1 zoning report. Petition. And again, if you have additional comments you'd like to send us in writing, please send those to the clerk and recorder's office in the meantime, and we'll take this up again in a couple of weeks. Okay, so, motion to postpone for 2 weeks.
So moved.
Second.
First, moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. So we'll put this on the agenda for, looks like that would be July 5th.
And I think we're not
I
meeting
think we may
July
not be
5th,
meeting
so it
July 5th.
so it'd be the following.
Expected public outcry if we do. So it actually would be on the, it would get bumped to 12.
And so will we be accepting public comment through the 11th of
Let's go until
July?
the 5th for public comment, just so we have time to incorporate that.
Okay, so through July 5th. public comment.
Is that good?
Thank you, Marisa.
Yeah, thanks, Marisa. Okay, discussion decision to discontinue the formal review process for the updated draft agricultural and residential preservation zoning district. This is an item that we put on the agenda from last week, and kind of speaks for itself. You know, we've got a lot going on at the moment. We have staff shortages, planning department guys are going to be working on floodplain permitting and damage assessments, and they're going to have their hands full for a while. And it also makes sense to put this on the shelf, just because we don't have the community consensus I think that we need going forward to even talk about it. So, but we'll certainly take public comment on it now that we're here. So, public comment on this agenda item. And this is on the process itself rather than the content or the substance.
Beth Kovash, 11 Willow Drive. I agree that this should be shelved for a significant amount of time to let people get through the flood processes, get through the summer, you know, with the businesses, and have an opportunity to have their views heard in a timely manner. But right now is not the right time to do this.
Joel Grunek, 5 Moosehorn Lane.
Give your last name again.
Grunek, Joel
Grunek.
Grunek,
Yeah, thank you.
5 Moosehorn Lane. I agree that this should be stopped for a while with everything that's going on. But I think it needs to be noted to the public that we need to get the public more involved with this process when it starts to continue after things settle down. I was part of a 10-person group, the Park County Community Conversation. And we had groups of people for it, against it. It was one of the, probably the best things I've ever been involved in. And I was involved with the zoning in Minnesota back in 2004. We had a group of people and stakeholders in the community that followed a process that was set up. to ensure that all segments of the Park County population are represented. We had people from Gardner, we had people from Wilsaw, from immigrant, all over in our little group. So it wasn't just one area, and nothing was held private about this. You can go on the Park County conversation.org site and you can read everything about what was going on. And everybody respected everybody's opinion, which was unbelievable because you hear so many people that are for zoning, so many people that are against zoning, but everybody in this group, mellow, discussed their beliefs. Nobody jumped on anybody. It was just, it was hard to explain because I didn't know what to expect coming into this. And everybody understood everybody's opinion to gain it all. We worked to understand all sides, gain and understanding the value and friendship and commodity of development along the way. We worked to reach consensus and the best way to substantially protect and retain our fragile, beautiful ecosystem and empower people to self-govern and guide our decision-making. We wanted to create a future based on our shared values. We wanted to set an example how diverse people can all work together. What we came up with and kind of what our group of both sides decided on is that we need to use data to develop metrics and objectives, criteria, permitting conditions, avoid arbitrary standards. We need to collect that data to enable forecasting, provide larger context to make long-term decisions. This zoning also needs to define residential and commercial. I personally believe that from what I've seen, I've got 40 years in the construction industry, 35 years as a business owner. I'm a current business owner here in Park County. I believe that there should be some zoning. Do I think it needs to be the extent of the draft that we have right now? Absolutely not. I'm just going to use this as an example. Back when we did our zoning in our county back in Minnesota in 2004, we started out with a 64-page zoning, and we had community involvement. We had community involved in this entire package. Once it got, and none of us expected this, once we got everything through and everything was agreed on, and yes, we had some people that were still against it. By the time I left Minnesota in 2017, that document went to 234 pages of regulations for zoning. It got to the point that you can't do anything, and that's what happens without having, and we had community involvement in the beginning. In the end, with commissioners coming through and changing, and as it goes, and I'm not blaming commissioners, it's not they're doing their jobs, but it got out of control and it wasn't open to public. When you take the public out of it is when you create all of the problems. You have to have public input, community, people that are invested in this community to help make these decisions for zoning. I think without it, you're headed down a road that is going to be just like what I left. It's not good. You have to have the community involved in this every step of the way. And we have to get the information out, whether our websites, I still think what we did is I get there's only 3,000 readers of the local paper, but there are people that are reading the paper online. These meetings and these decisions like this need to be printed in the paper, need to be better on websites. And I think that will help a lot of this zoning process when it comes back on the table, move smoother and help people understand and not have everything so one-sided. I'm running into people yet that don't have a clue yet because my friend told me this and that's gospel. And that's not the way it is. I mean, if you take the time and read it, if you understand it through the paper, through a website, you're going to have more people being involved in it instead of just against it and set against it. And that's what we're getting out of these meetings, these groups of diverse people for it and against it. Nobody gets attacked, nobody. You sit down and you work through all of the issues. And what you thought might not be a good thing, after you discussed it in your group and discussed it amongst everybody, turns out to be that, yeah, that is a pretty even balance. And I think that's what we need to do with this zoning.
Thank you. Thank you. Additional comment? This is on the process. David.
Yeah, David Swanson, 2719 East River Road. I've written and spoken about the preeminent issue at stake here, which is private property rights. And that should be the preeminent consideration in these discussions and process going forward at all times. We need to hold that in our minds as the ideal that we're serving here. This is the county property owner's issue, a property rights issue, not an in-house, top-down governmental fiat kind of issue, an opportunity to add a layer of bureaucracy or a bureaucratic fix to a problem that puts discussions outside the direct citizen control. So I echo this gentleman's comments here that we have to have this ongoing civilian, if you will, process of discussion as this evolves. The cookie cutter regulations will not work. You're going to end up with a 235-page document trying to cover every possible condition and situation that comes up, which is fundamentally and ultimately untenable. It's like you got to read the thing in order to find out what's in it, and nobody's going to read it. So nobody's going to really know what's in it. So I think I understand the idea of the desire to categorize various areas of discussion and types of categorical areas of use resolution, land use resolution. But it needs to be primarily involving the people who are directly involved or immediately and adjacently, adjacently involved. A civil process of discussion and negotiations are the heart of a meaningful and fair process prior to an adjudicable outcome. So in an ad hoc situation, as things develop and come up, these things can be addressed and investigated. Now, the only way we can do this should be, tantamount to some kind of grand jury structure, basically, and that this board of land use, adjudicative board, or what do you call it, the adjustment board, should be drawn from a pool, a civilian pool, similar to a jury pool, having independent authority to make presentments and indictments as necessary. It needs to be an investigative process, this ad hoc process. This is being and has been driven, I think, too much by the planning department, and it seems at times that the planning board has been in Mr. Inman's service, and sometimes I think that the commission has reflected that as well. That up until recently, and I know we've paused this a couple of times, and I think that's been good, but I don't think we're following a correct model here. I think the model is what's wrong. When we have another board that will be selected by a commission with a county employee in charge, and finally having adjudicative party powers over that commission, I think is diametrically opposed to what is needed here, because you're only going to ever end up with a situation where too few people have that might be approachable. I use the word approachable as euphemistically, but in fact might be corruptible to special interests in charge of the thing. And that's why I go for this idea of a more broad-based civilian, a year at a time commitment from people all over the county, simply as the same criteria for participation in this pool as would be in a normal jury pool. And now furthermore, I think property owners in the county who are unincorporated at this time, in other words, who are in areas which are not zoned already, and there are a number of them which are, these are the people that should have any kind of the predominant weight in this discussion, because people who are already in zoned areas, what real stakeholding do they have in my property rights as an unzoned person out in the valley, you know? And so I don't think that if this were to come to a vote, which it may well should do, I'm just wrapping up, may well should do come to a vote, a public vote, that I don't think people in already zoned areas should even have a vote in it. I think it should be strictly people who have property in unzoned areas who should be able to vote on this. We're still going to get a vast variety of opinion. And finally, so it's a twofold idea. If first of all, that it may well come to a vote on this, a countywide vote on whether or not to have a broad-based zoning document, resolution document here, land use document. And number two, that if that were to carry and that people decided, yeah, we do want something like this, we have to revisit the model that we're looking at here and doing this. Because I think fundamentally the model that's been presented has been all wrong. And we need to get a broader based, more inclusive pool of people to choose from to serve on a public board that is not under the aegis of the commission, but has the same kind of independent authority that a grand jury would, to investigate, to make presentments and suggestions, to attempt resolutions, and finally, if push comes to shove, if somebody's really violating somebody's rights, make an indictment, pass an indictment, an indictable notice onto the district attorney. So that's really that's the best understanding of the thing that I've been able to come up with, and I think that it's a model problem. And if we could come up with a model that really convinced people that we're trying to hold on to this ideal of property rights and independent governance of our own property, and serve that in a more shall we say democratic or a Republican form of governance way, really, where the board members of this adjustment board would be broad-based from all areas and all strata of the county, and in the same way as we handle in a jury trial on an ad hoc basis. And then if indictments need to be made, we've got the courts to follow up on that. And those are not going to be that often, the same way as they haven't been so far. I mean, it's been once in a while. So thank you for your time. And I appreciate the thought and the effort and the discussion, the time everyone's put into this issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Just a couple of quick reminders. If you are calling into us, please know that if you are making lunch or moving furniture, we can hear all of that in the room. So just a heads up. Also, we're taking comments. The agenda item is actually directed toward the statutory process and whether to continue with that. So, and if everybody can kind of keep their comments focused, I know a lot of folks want to talk. I want to make sure everybody gets heard.
Jeff Wagner, 100 Morgan Trail. This is about the process, but I think a bolder step is needed here than just suspending it. I think that a bold leadership move would say, you know, the process has gotten us to a very bad point right now. I mean, we are in an airplane that's in a steep dive and the pilot's dead. So we're not pulling out of it with the current process. Now, the process, when you look at the growth policy, this is ostensibly to address goal 16. There are 38 different objectives and action items associated with that goal. And if this touches on just a couple of those, that's probably generous. So we just talked about for the citizen initiated zoning, we have to follow the growth policy. Well, the authority to do county initiated zoning is only if the growth policy is followed. And I think you'd have a difficult time maintaining if the growth policy was followed. You know, there may be a little bit overlap in there someplace, but it surely wasn't followed to the extent that is intended by the statute. And I think the process has gotten us to a point where it's clear that we should just start over again. We should I think that, posting the announcement, the green boxes was sort of in the right neighborhood, but the plan should have been pitched in the green boxes and we should start over again. And we should count this, what we've done so far is a lesson learned. We have to follow business acumen. You got to ignore your sunk costs. We have to ignore the effort that went into this point and got us where we are, use it as a lesson learned, start over again, follow the growth policy, get the kind of public engagement that several folks have talked about. I've been engaged in some of it, and it's clear there's a big overlap in the citizenry in terms of what's needed, and we can get to a good place. But you get to that good place by having it grow from the ground up, not having it pushed down from the top down. And if we've learned anything over these past couple of years, it's that we place too much power and authority in the hands of too small a group that aren't answerable to anybody. It's just fraught with potential for problems, and that's where we are unless we follow the proper process. Thank you.
Mr. Jeff. So I'll hand over here.
I'll be next. Kelly Niles, 12 Horsey Trail. I'm just saying that I think that the conflict mitigation was well intended. We need planning, we need tools, and I hope that whether this is shelved or dropped or whatever, that we continue to move forward with, and that you help move forward with trying to help with the problems that are coming our way. I mean, the flood is a perfect example of how none of us live on an island. I mean, some of us do, but that means that, they needed community and affected other people just as much. And so, while private property is great and all on paper, not, it in practice, it's just not reality. I live at the bottom of Shields River, and everything anybody does upriver of me affects my property, my pastures, my animals, my family, my kids, my few customers that I sell my products to. So, this spring when it was really dry, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to irrigate the fields, what I might sacrifice. I was then told that there could be some developers coming in to build a golf course in the watershed of the Shields River. So here I am trying to figure out, what fields I'm not going to irrigate, and someone's going to take all the water before it even gets to me. I'm also responsible for everything that's downriver of me as well. So we don't live in a bubble. We don't live in an island. We need to work together to figure this out. Development's coming. I think if we sit in a room together, we can get a lot done. We can make hard decisions. We probably do need gravel pits. We need meat processing plants. We may not plant, but we need those things so that we are a resilient, healthy community. Community matters. And there has never been a week that has shown that more than this last week. So we need to sit in a room and make some hard choices. We need to compromise, and we need to make plans. This is happening. Thanks.
Thank you, Kelly.
So I just want to say that I agree, Michelle Ibarra, Park County Environmental Council, with the path forward that you're proposing. Now is not the time, I don't think, to push forward an unpopular. I just echo what many folks have said, and Kelly said really well. This was a really tough week for our community. And right now, I think it's really important that we work together, and that looking to you for leadership and saying let's reassess maybe what the problem at hand is, and how do we respond as a community to that problem? What really is at stake? And I am so happy to see friends here who I think, who participated in the effort that Ryan and Kate put together, the community conversations. And I just want to say that was a really meaningful opportunity for me. And, just we came together and talked about what's really at stake. And I think that what I learned is, we have a community that really values our quality of life. We really value open space and public lands and our river. And I think that there's strong recognition that doing nothing doesn't work, right? That we need to make a plan. But we want that plan to be community driven from the ground up. You know, and so the next time we're in this room, it's not, it's, your job is a lot easier, right? Because we have all spent the time getting to know each other, finding our common ground, and then identifying a problem and looking for some potential solutions. I don't think any of us should pretend that it's going to be a panacea where everybody's agreeing on everything, but like I think that we have a lot of overlapping values, and you know, this is a community that depends upon agriculture and tourism, and both of those industries really impacted this. And your staff, rightfully so, have a lot on their plate right now. So I think taking the time to reassess, identify the problem. We're not going to quit. We're looking for leadership. I agree with Jeff. I don't think that we need to keep hammering out this same. We need to redefine the starting place rather than trying to amend something that I think it's created a lot of frustration for a lot of folks. So let me check my notes. What else I want to say? Yes. And I think that that's the other thing I heard, you know, David saying. I don't think we should get to the place where we need lawyers. You know, we should try to avoid that as much as possible by finding common ground from the ground up. And I thought the notice of degree box is also, I think the more that you can do that from the beginning and get more folks engaged, I think that's the right idea. Right? The newspaper, reading the notices in the newspaper is pretty not something most people do. And so I think that you were on the right track there, but maybe let's just restart and make sure we have a lot of folks coming together from the beginning, and know that I think this is a pretty precarious time for our community right now. You know, housing is still a huge issue in our community, and the stock market is going down, but people still want, outside folks still want to invest in Park County. And how do we come together to make sure that we don't get taken advantage of when the businesses who are the lifeblood of this community, who fought through COVID to keep their businesses running, and now they're at risk again. So how do we support the community fabric so that we don't get taken advantage of this moment, and then come out stronger and more united with a plan that we can all agree on. So thank you.
Okay. No public comment. Ms. Hollowell.
In Hollowell, Flashman Creek. Conflict mitigation zoning, now called ag and residential zoning, has built only division and distrust in our county. It started life on the arrogant assertion that no facts and data were needed or wanted, so no foundation for discussion was ever established. No meaningful public discussion took place. No questions answered, no outreach from the governing agency to the people on the land. When citizens reached out last fall and spoke up, what was the results? No questions answered, no discussion, only a large computer file collecting dust. We saw no evidence of the planning board reading and considering our comments. In the end, even the planning board has been cut from contributing to the document. 6 of 7 board members have left in the last 3 years that this has raged on. The frustration of both board and citizens at large should be enough to make it easy for commissioners to close this unproductive chapter of distrust, now called ag and residential zoning. Much needs to be done to help our county mend from the flooding. Please put your computers aside, walk on the land, talk with the business owners and the families, share their visions. Come back to us refreshed and filled with a better understanding of why we hold our families, businesses, and property rights so dear. Understand how rural landowners work well together naturally without the need of government intervention. What we wish for our future does not involve a manipulated vision from people behind city desks. I ask you respectfully to close the door on this zoning regulation, which is not the work or vision of the community and never has been. Restore trust in our county. I'm against the zoning. Thank you.
Please.
Jared Pattengale, 118 West Grannis. Over here. I gotta say, I was really disappointed with how this all came out. And there's a lot of people that haven't even heard about it yet. And it creates a tremendous amount of distrust in the leadership. I would really say this whole process, however much effort went into it, I'm really against it. If we have an issue that great that we need to blanket the entire county with a zone and not have the voices of the people that it affects be heard on it, that it shouldn't go forward. If it's that bad, we really need to get out there and educate the people. If we have other interests coming in and we really see a danger there of being overtaken or values gone, we really need to get on the ground and talk with the people surrounding that issue and get their confidence and their vote behind it. So it's not such a volatile position, because when something like this comes out, it destroys relationships, it destroys friendships, and it destroys communities. People that work together before get divided on it so harshly, where it may affect one, but it doesn't affect the other. I'm really against how this was presented and how it was put in and injected into the community. And I would just really encourage you guys to pull this thing back. I'm very against the whole process here of how this happened. And I love Park County. It's a great place, but I would really like to see it protected and the values of the people, maybe more than just a blanket zone that gives a few control. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Other comments?
Christina Nelson. My thing is, not just the process that happened now, but we need to also look at future processes to where this doesn't happen again and the trust actually gets built back up and people that it does affect do get a say in it. And along with that, I feel super uncomfortable with if this passed and the process that was taken with the future staff, commissioners, any of that, that we'd end up just like Joel, where he came from, where we'd end up with 200 and some pages later, because then they just take off with it. So not only a new process now, but it also needs to be one that affects the future too.
Just for info, if something that's 230 pages long, I wouldn't say. Other comment? In the back, please.
Don Hilton, 4970 Old Yellowstone. I have to agree with, I don't know your name right here.
Jerry.
Jerry. He well said what's happening. The park superintendent of Yellowstone National Park had a tremendous flood problem. And in 24 to 48 hours, he put together a 7 or 8 bullet point list, what needed to happen, and it's being done. I think you guys should take notice of what he's done and take a step backward, because this is being slammed down our throats. And there's this gentleman sitting right next to me knows nothing about this. He's here for something else, for 5 acre tracts. So how many more people in this room that don't know anything about this zoning is being pushed? The green box notice that's twice the size of 2 postcards. It's a pretty poor attempt to get the notice to the public about what's going on. So I am against zoning for Park County. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Other comment? Gwen, please.
Gwen O'Hare, 169 O'Hare Lane. And I'm here on behalf of the O'Hare Ranch today because they're all out trying to deal with the flood and the debris and the things that are washed out and the fencing and all those things. And that's a priority. But the process that has occurred, I'm very opposed to it. I think that it has divided our community, and it will only do so further if it continues. And it needs to have a reset, complete reset. And actually, I think some strategy sessions on just how are we going to proceed as far as the process, and how are we going to engage our community. And, you know, I wrote a letter to the editor about the notices at the Green Box. That was really a very sad attempt, in my humble opinion, to notify the public. And maybe people go to the green boxes, and as I said, maybe they read their news and things at the green boxes. I'm not taking away from the fact a notice couldn't have been posted there to touch a lot of individuals, but to put it on an 8x11 sheet of paper was really kind of an insult to the public and to those who were trying to stay informed. And I don't know where the breakdown occurred within this process, but I do agree with the gentleman who spoke earlier that the perception is that this was driven by the planning department, not the planning board, not the commissioners, but an individual or several individuals within the planning department. That is not where this needs to originate. It needs to originate from the citizenry and the individuals who have a stake in this. We're the ones who are going to be zoned, the landholders. I agree with Kelly. Yes, we're all in this together, and it does impact our community what happens at one location. And whether it's a golf course or a subdivision or an industrial plant or whatever. But this was presented as an industrial, heavy industrial and large commercial venture. That's what I was told repeatedly. I don't see a whole lot about that in there. I've been in Scottsdale and all around, and I know the guy that manages Westworld and the dust mitigation and things. They have very specific criteria that goes with that facility. There's nothing that says we can't do that in this county, if that is in fact what you're concerned about. But when they stopped the gold mine in Paradise Valley, that was a group of individuals who said, no, we really don't want a gold mine at Immigrant Gulch. There was no regulation on the books or any of those things. And we do have agencies. There's DNRC. I've said this before. There's DNRC. There's the DEQ. There are different agencies that deal and have the expertise. You all can't be experts in every area. You cannot do it all, but you can call on resources from these various agencies who do have engineers, who do have experts. They should be consulted and brought into any kind of a process that is going to govern us. And I've never seen the government, you know, Reagan said, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Usually that isn't the best place to start something, is telling people what to do with their property, how to do it with their property, etc. There are conservation easements. There are a lot of different things that people can do individually with your property if you choose to do so. And I don't think this process has been inclusive. I think it was poorly marketed. As I wrote in my letter, it was poorly marketed. And I think ultimately it was a taking of people's rights with no compensation, with no reward for them, other than to say I was part of something that everybody else, I think, wanted. And that isn't where we need to be. We're bigger than that. We're better than that. And we don't need to acquiesce, roll over, put our feet in the air to special interests, to whatever it may be. You all represent everyone in this room. And I'm not taking away from the fact we don't need some guidelines, but we need to define what those guidelines are pertaining to. And if it's commercial and heavy industrial, then start there. Start there. It doesn't need to even, I didn't see anything about that in the title. Maybe you need to eliminate ag and residential out of the title. Maybe it needs to say industrial and commercial. Thank you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gwen. And this is a good opportunity just to note, we did receive a few comments too via email, from Gwen, from Wendy Riley, from David Swanson, Ann and Morris Hollowell, Jonathan Hedinger, Tim Miller, and Dan Scata. Some were quite lengthy, so I'm not going to read them, but they're essentially the same points we're hearing today. Thank you for those. Additional public comment, please.
I'm Mona Lewis, and I have a nonprofit, Paradise Permaculture Institute, and basically permaculture is permanent agriculture, and we like to teach, and support the community in growing their own food. And I really am not for zoning because I really desire to continue what I'm doing and to support the community, even though my neighbor has pigs and the pigs smell a little. What I am really supportive of is people growing their own food and food resiliency for the future. And that's something we're not really thinking about. And all the people that are doing anything agricultural are supporting the community, whether they're feeding themselves or whether, like us, bringing produce to local markets here and restaurants. We're adding to the resiliency for the community for the future. And I think when we're told we can't do certain things with our property, it's going to be very difficult to have that support. And I think it's just something to keep in mind for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, again, we're not really talking about the substance of the proposal. We're talking about the statutory process and whether to continue with that. So thank you for the comment, though. Additional public comment, please, in the back.
Yeah, why don't they try
Just please name, please. Just oh, thank you.
Anyway, I live on Billman Creek, and that you can see salt sets coming down the creek there. And I've had the sanitarians out there, and why don't they clean that up before they try to zone us? It's coming from up above the trailer park, the ranchers out there.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Could we get your last name too?
It's Bain.
Bain. Okay, thank you. Additional comment. Additional comment in the statutory process. It's all really good. Additional
Hello,
Please,
I'm
move
on
on.
the, this is Leslie Feigl,
Yes,
16
Leslie.
Miller Drive. Good morning, gentlemen. I agree absolutely with everybody in the room. If we could simply put this off at this time. I did talk with the finance department, and apparently if we were to do a direct mail, it would cost around $8,500. And that would be to all Park County residences. And I think that that would be a better way of ensuring that all of the county residences were informed. And I think that that would be a great starting point if we could find a way before we continue further to put that into the budget for a direct mailing. And other than that, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to all these wonderful people taking the time out of their day to come in. As you can see, there's a lot of very passionate people, but I think that there's just got to be a different process to be able to listen to everybody within the county. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Leslie. Anybody else online?
Jason Leinbach, 19 Elkhorn Lane. I just want to reiterate, yeah, I felt that the communication has been underwhelming. It's all been word of mouth with neighbors and other people about town, and due to the lack of information and the uncertainty, it's been overwhelmingly negative. I feel as though communication is critical on this. I didn't even see the card at the green box, for example. I would really like to just hear some official communication to all of the residents potentially impacted by this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jean.
Thank you, Commissioner Caldwell, members of the commission. As you.
Jean Kepler, just for the record.
Yes. Thank you. 1010 Swingley Road. As you prepare for the next steps in land use planning in this county, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking officially as a member of Friends of Park County. although I believe they share this position. I think one thing that you need to reestablish is, or recreate, is what is the role of the planning board? It seems over the past months that it has been unclear when the planning board is doing something, when the commissioner is doing something, hard for people to know where to apply their concerns. I notice, I think I'm correct, that the only member of the planning board who's here today is Brian Wells.
Christina Nelson as well.
Okay, hi, Christina. But that's 5 out of 7. The chairman of the planning board isn't here.
Yes, he's online.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I stand corrected. But I just think this is an important time for the community to be present and for the planning board to re-engage in its proper role in these procedures. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Additional public comment? Anybody else? Please.
Lisa Barrett. I'm clearly hearing my neighbors here, if I can just distill it down, express a concern that's not been expressed in a couple of sentences. That is that Park County is comprised of many, many small and micro business owners that many operate their offices from their property. And some of the proposed guidelines under the growth plan threaten their ability to utilize their property. And I think I can probably speak for all of us when I say one of the reasons that we bought within the county rather than within the city is we wanted the freedom to be able to work from home. These guidelines as they stand are very threatening to that. And that's what I'm hearing from all my neighbors here. We need to look at that. We need to respect the fact that people bought in the county for a specific reason because they wanted to have broader use of their property. Not just as David Swanson so eloquently pointed out, that there right now as it stands, the power rests within the hands of a few people potentially to tell people in the county that they can utilize their property in the way that they wish to, and that's the very specific reason that they bought it. And I agree that his plan to appoint an investigative commission on an ad hoc basis is really, that's a great idea when you think about it. I would encourage people to think a little further on that subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Different comment? Anybody else? Anybody else have a comment? Okay, thanks everybody. This has been great input, and it's the same flavor we've heard before, but I think the temperature is somewhat lower than we've heard in the past, and I thank you all for that. And very thoughtfully said. So thank everybody. Thanks everybody for that. Commission discussion.
Well, we've heard a lot, so I don't have a lot to say besides making a motion to discontinue the formal review process for the updated draft agriculture and residential preservation zoning district.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion?
I think Park County didn't hit the ball for sure. I'm very upset about our notices, what we've done. We've heard meeting after meeting for people saying we didn't even know this was going on. We'd like to know what's going on. I think we did really missed the ball on this. I think we did a bad job. And that's why I brought it up last meeting to have this on the agenda, because we need to do better if this ever comes around again. And I'm not excited to see it come around again, to be very honest with you. But if it does, we need to do a better job on letting people at Park County know.
Okay. Mr. Berg, any thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't had anybody tell me that the status quo is perfect. I think it's clear to most, and I've heard it in that room today, that there's a feeling that we can do better. And that's not better with this current draft. That's just better as a county. Change is coming. Everybody, I think, realizes that. We we're not immune to the hazards of COVID. That was a setback for all operations, including this process. We were hit hard barely a week ago by a devastating flood. We haven't yet soaked up the impacts of that to our economy, our citizens, our landscape. That landscape, the human landscape, the physical landscape has changed dramatically in just a short week. I think the only mistake is not to try. We've learned a lot of lessons. We've got a lot of people engaged, and I think we need to pull ourselves together here after this flood. That's going to be a big job. It's going to be a rough summer, and then re-engage. And I'm really grateful for everybody's passion and everybody's input. And we have work to do.
On lots of fronts. Thank you, Mr. Berg. Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, I haven't heard anybody today that I didn't agree with at some level. And so it's certainly timely to take a look given current circumstances and given what we've all been through in the last 3 years. It's been a lot of hard hits locally and nationally. So it's tough to take this on in a calm, thoughtful atmosphere in the best of times, but these are not the best of times. But I'd really like to kick this back to the community because I mean, our role more than anything else is to facilitate the community engagement. I mean, none of us has an agenda on this. We all kind of know that there's a problem, but we're not really agreeing in terms of what that problem is and what this, as a result, what this proposal is intended to solve. So I do like the idea of kicking it back. I think the community conversation process is really, really valuable. And something like that, I think, would put us in good standing to go forward if we do decide to go forward, and if there is any kind of agreement in terms of whether we do something in this direction. So I've got for a long time the sense that people want to engage in conversation that is somewhat less formal and more engaging. And the problem is within the statutorily defined process, we can't do that. And so that's why I would fully agree with the idea of ending the statutory process. It gives us time to take a deep breath and maybe see what we do agree on and work with that, start from the ground up. So I would agree. So we've got a motion and a second to discontinue the formal process. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks again for your comment. All right. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of our meeting, or if you want to leave, we can take 2 minutes and give you an opportunity. And everybody, please watch your head if you're anywhere close to the screen.
But public comment.
My sister's here, so I'll get it right.
Thank you very much. Hey, nice to put a face.
Be darned. Thank you so much for your good help.
Well, you're welcome.
You are calm, capable.
It's nice to put a face on the name.
You're welcome. I mean,
County Attorney.
that's not my role, but
Thank you.
it tells me that the two of you really helped a lot.
That's like that now. We're gonna do what we have to do. We need more cooks. More cooks. More cooks in the fry. Jeez, jeez.
And I do have public comments from today.
Great.
That we can clarify.
Morris.
And then,
This has nothing to do with the
yeah.
Yeah.
You do.
And this is Democrat who's more.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We saved our bulls and we saved our cows.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I meant to say that, but, and thank you for the action, because those are the things that mean a lot to those of us that are out there in the fields. You all care enough to, and so thank you.
I appreciate your comments. They're really well taken. I'm sorry I missed you on the phone a couple of times.
Oh, that's okay. I think I'm gonna add one thing, and it's not in the public comment. This cannot be driven by a special ed. You cannot do that. Whatever it is, they cannot drive this train. I think it's great.
No,
You're
never.
not going to.
And I was at the Willful Rodeo because I was handing out little leaflets about your hearings coming up. People had no idea what I was talking about. I said, what is this about? They had no idea, none at all. We have to find a. Right.
Yeah, we're dealing with unlimited budget, staff of two.
Well, it would be nice if we can get to just having the planning board go.
And then what do you think about adding that
Again, we had some restrictions for 2 years.
I understand, and it didn't help.
It went on too long. People were just sick of it.
Jerry says, well, I can't go, so you have.
Well, so it's like we just need to start from scratch.
I know, poor you guys, I pick up the phone because it's sometimes easier for me than to sit down and write out an email or whatever. And it was like,
I'm sure there's interesting language in the types, how she determined the boundaries.
Thank you for that.
You know,
So I think it better target than most.
down into details, it could be 25, whatever. And I might make 60 days.
Okay.
We can still.
Okay, we can change that.
I talked to
Absolutely.
the clerk and recorder in Stillwater, and she had a big one, but they also had mining. Mineral mines.
Yes, we were expecting you.
So anyway, I'll just give this to you, but there was something that,
Okay.
like a map was missing with the signature pages. And that was one of the things that made it in.
It's an Excel sheet
So,
that's got your name on it.
I just want to let you know. I really appreciate it.
I'll give it back to you. That's where I
Your
look at
call.
it. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, if we could let us get on. I'm sure of our meeting.
I'll send you this.
Conversations outside.
Be there with Bill. Thank you. Sorry.
There you go.
You have your gavel.
I do. I've never used it. I don't plan to.
Except that Clint uses Mad Voice.
So
I did that yesterday.
Okay, let's go to discussion decision on Mako workers' compensation insurance renewal. We had a meeting with our insurance carrier, Levin Insurance, last week, I believe. Time
Seemed
flies.
like a month ago, but
It seems like a month ago. We got our insurance renewals. The rates are up somewhat, but not dramatically. So I'm pretty happy to see that. Public comment on this agenda. Public comment? Discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Mako workers' compensation insurance renewal.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor,
Aye.
aye? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, and something new, we had to peel out coverage on renewing our cyber insurance. Actually, this is actually a new policy because we were actually covered under under an old policy. Discussion decision on a cybersecurity insurance effective July 1, 2022. We had 2 quotes among 3 who were solicited. This looks to be, in terms of the premium and the coverage, the better of the 2. Public comment on this.
Yes, this is Erica Strickland. I just had one thing when I was looking through it. I just wanted to confirm that it's giving the option of 1-year coverage up to 5-year coverage. Did you see that? And if you,
We agreed on the 1-year coverage.
what's that?
We agreed on the 1-year coverage.
Okay, well, because the only reason I was bringing that up is that if you have the 5-year coverage, it's like a 50% savings. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Actually, I don't think we have made a decision on the term. We could specify 5 years if we like, because we haven't had that
Right,
voted.
and then the choice was between $1 million liability or $2 million liability. It's not too much between the two. If you go to 5-year coverage, it's like the difference between, what was I gonna say? 30,000 and 32,000 versus
Yeah.
60,000 to 70,000. So it's pretty significant to consider the 5 years.
Mhm. Okay. Erica, so your recommendation would be 5-year coverage, taking the $2 million policy?
Yeah, I think you get the best coverage, you get the best value to go ahead and do that.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Public comment on this agenda? Commission discussion.
Mr. Chair, I
Mr.
move
Chair.
that we renew the.
Go ahead, Bill.
It's easier. All right, Mr. Chair, I move that we renew the cybersecurity insurance effective July 1, 2022 for 5 years.
Okay, with the $2 million coverage?
Yes.
Okay.
I second that.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. And I'll communicate that to Josh when we're done. All right, discussion decision on abandonment of Park County right-of-way in Wilsall. This is,
That's why Tom's here.
that's why Tom is here, and it looks like we still are waiting for some information on this. Is that correct?
Yes, there is a piece of paper that the rodeo people, I think, have that our surveyor has to sign. And it's Schedule A, couple of this.
Amended Appendix A.
Appendix A. I sent that to him. He says he hasn't received it. So Tom, I'd be happy to call him after this meeting, but I just talked to him last week and he said, I'm still waiting for the.
I sent him the stuff. As I understood it, it was received. This thing has been way beyond.
It's been 6
It's only
years.
6 years. Come on.
6 years we've talked about this 80-foot stretch of road that goes nowhere to be abandoned. And I don't get it myself, but I'll be happy to call them. Maybe we should both.
The road guy wants one thing and then another, and another, and another.
But it needs to be viewed, but I did that. I did that.
Yeah.
With Barney. So that's all done. It's just Appendix A.
Yeah, Barney said that he couldn't do the road report until he had the Appendix A, and that was when it was the first time that it was on the agenda in May.
So can you guys get together with, can the two of you get together with Barney? Maybe?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Nothing else. I send it to Barney and to you.
Okay.
That way maybe we'll get this covered, but yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen a road abandonment take so much effort in my life that really it should be very easy.
Actually, Gary asked about the jail too. There is no record of it. It's a clerk and recorder. He came down just the other day and looked. There's no record.
I'll check into that too. The commission did vote to sell that to the rodeo association for $1.
And there's no record of it over next door.
It's one lot by the rodeo grounds. It's got a little old metal jail on it. It's 20 by 120. And it was owned by Park County. Park County Commission voted to sell it to the rodeo association for $1.
But you see, if you can't find any record of that transfer, let me know and I'll get something in front of the attorney's office to draw the sales contract.
Okay, do you have a time frame when that might have been done?
It's been a while ago.
Last summer?
I think longer ago than that.
But not like in the 70s.
No, just in the last 2 years.
This commission did it.
Okay.
So no action at this point, just let it sit.
Right. I make a recommendation, postpone this till next meeting.
Okay.
And that's something that.
That'll be the 28th.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second to that?
So just a
I'll
reminder,
second.
this is what I sent to Barney, and he said that that is not the appendix.
And that's what he told me to send.
You guys can sort that out.
I
And,
received nothing
yeah,
after that.
yeah, you guys can sort that out. Carl, we had a motion to move to the 28th.
And a second.
Moved by Hensley, second by Berg. Discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Sorry, Tom, we'll figure this out.
Move to the 28th.
Yeah.
1 week from today.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Make sure we get.
I'll
what we
try to
need.
call them and find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I'll get him that again and you. And then, well, actually, it's already right there in the file as we understood it. So
We just need to clarify what it is.
Barney needs to tell me exactly what to do.
Or send you a copy of what needs to be filled out.
Yeah,
Send
I
it
think
out.
so, definitely, because I thought that's what he wanted. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the trip. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Gee, do I have a zoning issue?
All right, discussion decision to temporarily waive floodplain permit application fees. Austin, are you still on the line?
Yep, I'm here, Steve.
Okay, we have almost nobody in the room. We've got about 6 of us, but any background on this?
Not too much that you guys aren't already aware of. We are still required to issue certain floodplain permits, post-recovery. That's a federal mandate. That's not something the commission is able to waive. We'll have those letters going out to all potentially impacted owners in the regulated flood hazard area this week. We'll be out this weekend doing substantial damage assessments once we receive additional support from the state. One thing the commission is able to do, however, is waive those permit fees. So we put that on there on the agenda today just to provide some additional relief for hopefully the very few homeowners and property owners that are going to be impacted by this.
Okay, thanks, Austin. Public comment on this. Commission discussion.
Yes, sure. I move that we. I'll do this one, Bill.
Take it, Clint.
I move that we temporarily waive floodplain permit application fees.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. We need to have some kind of protocol.
Yeah.
Discussion decision. Thanks, Lawson. Discussion decision to approve facility fee waiver for the Midway West Amusements Carnival contingent on in-kind exchange of carnival tickets for use by people directly affected by flooding. It's a long agenda item. Morgan, are you on this morning?
I am. Yes, hello.
Good morning. Thanks for sticking with us today.
Yes, well, there was a couple of times I weren't sure where we were at in the agenda, but I'm happy that I've made it.
Good, we are too.
Yes, so this agenda item is in response to, these are certainly difficult times for families, and coincidentally this week we happened to have a carnival that was coming through, and I have been working with the carnival. The carnival has at this point agreed to reduce all of their ticket prices and some of the prices for food for families, or really anyone in Park County, just because they know these are challenging times and they're wanting to show their support for what we've gone through. As for offering free tickets, that's something that I've been looking into. I've reached out to a couple other nonprofit organizations to see if there was a group that could help partner with the fairgrounds to actually facilitate getting free tickets to affected families or affected people. As of right now, I have not found a nonprofit that has the current capacity or personnel or the process in place that could help to identify families that have been impacted, even though we could say that I'm sure everybody has felt the effects of the flooding. So at this point, I think if we were to waive the fees, that might be more difficult. The carnival has already paid the fees to Park County Fairgrounds, and so at this point, I think that this agenda item could be either allowing me to purchase tickets for up to $1,000 to have distributed to families who have been affected by flooding, or maybe a first come first served basis, or maybe continue to find groups to partner with so that we can get some free passes to people. And then hopefully I can identify some other groups that maybe have additional funding. $1,000 won't go that far with free tickets, but it's a step in the right direction.
Okay, thanks, Morgan. And you say Midway has already paid the fees?
They have, yes. So Midway already paid fees to the fairgrounds, and then they've already reduced the cost that they're going to charge.
Okay, good. And how much were the fees?
The rental fees for the fairgrounds.
Yes.
So it was $1,000 in addition to sharing 15% of their net ticket sales with the fairgrounds. And so now they're reducing all of their prices by 15%. And then at this point,
Well,
I haven't
makes sense,
negotiated
because-
returning those fees.
Yeah, no, I think in lieu of a waiver, I think just using the $1,000 in the fee would, certainly pay for go a long way in terms of paying for tickets. Am I understanding that right?
Yes, yeah, I think so. And at this point, I just need to find a way to fairly distribute them. Hopefully there's a group that would be willing to step forward, or maybe I could just talk to the people at the multi-agency resource event that's taking place today between 2 to 7 p.m. and work with some of those vendors to have them distribute them for me. Open to suggestion.
That'd be a great idea.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I do too. Morgan, what's the price of a ticket?
Price of a ticket, let me pull it up here. So they're usually about $1 each, and she is reducing them. Let's see, I think it's 20 tickets for $18. And then they have all-day passes. But in my mind, if we just purchase individual tickets, we'd be able to distribute those more tickets to a variety of people as opposed to purchasing all-day packets or wristbands. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that's starting off with a pretty reasonable ticket price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any thoughts from first of all, any public comment? If you are only surviving public.
I know.
Commission discussion.
I'll let Bill do this one.
It's all yours, Bill.
I may have lost track of the thread, but I do want to say that even as we would like Morgan to generate more revenue, we're fairly consistently asking her to give things away. So Morgan, I know we put you in a tough spot, but that facility is perfect for so many things, especially at times like these. So it's terrific that we can do this.
So maybe just a
So-
motion to, yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to suggest we just approve granting Morgan her discretion to optimize attendance and minimize the attendees' costs in whatever way she thinks best suits the circumstances.
Oh, I like that. And the chair can make a motion, can he not? I would second that.
Okay, so I'll consider it a motion and I'll take that as a second. Discussion. Does that capture the essence?
Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan, if you believe there's more demand for tickets than you have to give away, please let me know. I'd like to make a donation.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Same here. Count me in too.
Same here, Morgan.
Wonderful.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thanks, Morgan. I think it's a great idea. Okay, no county board recommendations today. County department updates. Matt, you want to go first?
Sure. So last week was a very busy week. My guys performed wonderfully. I'm super impressed with them and super happy with how they did.
Yes.
Thank you.
Big shout out to those guys.
Yeah. I'll hit just a couple highlights. Tuesday, they were planning to evacuate Gardner using helicopters. MDT only had one guy in the area, and so my crew went up there and worked on opening that road, even though it wasn't ours, just because it was important for access to Gardner. Worked on different closures all through the week, getting roads graded so that people have alternative access. On Wednesday, we received notice that Gardner's sewer main was in imminent, Thursday, we received notice that Gardner's sewer main was in imminent danger of collapse. We've been working hard on kind of getting all the different groups and agencies that exist in the county to work a little bit better together and share resources. So we get a call from them and then worked on Friday to help them sandbag around their sewer main that was exposed in the Yellowstone River and then pour some concrete in there. It was quite the endeavor with a crane, 1,000 one-ton sandbags, and Swiftwater Rescue Team. So that was pretty interesting. And then this next week, kind of some updates from MDT. It sounds like later this week, 89 South, the bridge over Point of Rocks will open back up to the public. There'll be reduced speeds, but I'm not sure exactly on which day that'll be. It'll be later in the week. 89 North, MDT's bridge engineer had the bridge or saw the bridge move more, and they're waiting for lower water to open that bridge. So it could be 2 to 3 weeks before they make a decision to open that bridge. Today, we're actually grading Old Clyde Park Road and spraying mag on it again. It's in fairly good condition, but when you have an entire highway running on a dirt road, it's tough to keep it in tip-top shape. We do have a crew down in Cook City Silvergate. Yesterday, they worked on installing the bridge over Woody Creek in Cook City. Today, they're adding temporary beams and decking over the Monument Ave Bridge. That will allow it to have a full weight rating since it's currently the only way in and out of that area. And we won't be able to see the scour issues for a while longer under that bridge. And so this will allow that bridge to be used even if there are scour issues, just because we're going farther back past the abutments with the beams. Warren and his crew are seeing a huge amount of solid waste at our green box sites. We did talk to the city, and because their Republic can only get them so many trailers a day, we'll be hauling extra waste over to the Logan landfill, making that work as we need. And we did work out an agreement with a company down in Cody to collect our roll-off and compactor containers from the Cook City Silvergate area. That way our guys don't have to do a 14-hour day driving around for 2 boxes.
It's a long way hard garbage.
Yes. Yeah. That's most of what I have.
Sounds like a quiet week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Let's see. Who do we have on the line? Mike, are you on the line this morning?
Did you say Mike or Mark?
We'll do Mike first.
Okay. So for planning, our big issue is kind of the post disaster relief and issues that we'll be dealing with. We have a DNRC team coming in early this Thursday morning. We'll be conducting a training with Ashley Lawson and myself. I believe there's going to be 3 teams that will be going out and doing the hazard assessments. They had a team out last week that did the initial assessment throughout the county and working with Steve J to identify all the structures within the regulated hazard area, and then identify which have been potentially substantially damaged. Once we go through that training, then we'll spend the next several days going through the county and visiting those properties to fill out a formal damage assessment. There's a lot we don't know. Lawson and I have never experienced a disaster of this nature, so we've never had to go out and conduct these types of hazard assessments. We've never had the emergency declaration. So a lot is going to be learned hopefully on Thursday, and we should be able to provide more information to the commission at that time as to what they can expect from the planning department moving forward. And we're glad that we have Ashley here as well, because it's going to take a lot. We don't know how long we'll be doing this or what the outcomes of those assessments and then the kind of follow-up will look like. But I know that we have resources coming from DNRC. I know FEMA's coming in. The accounting is pretty substantial, so Lawson is busy documenting everything, working with partners. We have Sean O'Callahan from Gallatin County coming over to help man an information booth. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, and then that doesn't even touch on the permitting that we're going to start to see for both bank stabilization projects and reconstruction within the regulated flood hazard area. So we'll be spending a lot of time dealing with that. If you guys have questions, feel free to come down and talk to us. And we do have a board training coming up next month. We were scheduled this past Thursday, but we determined to cancel that meeting because of access issues and just everything that was going on. It was a pretty hectic week. So we'll be meeting the third Thursday in July for a board training, and having a regular meeting as well.
Okay, you guys have your hands full. All right, thanks, Mike. Erica, you still on the line?
Yes, so I was working with the incident command last week as the finance chief, and Kristen's the deputy, which is great. So starting from the ground floor, trying to make sure that we're tracking all the FEMA expenses and that what's being spent will be able to be reimbursed by FEMA. I understand that a FEMA rep will be showing up at some point, so hopefully helping define the projects so that we can keep making sure that we're coding things properly. And it'll be good to have someone actually help define the projects. That's always an issue that we end up having to move funds around after the fact, so it'll help us be proactive. So that's the main thing. We have the budget workshop this afternoon. I emailed you the general fund this morning. I'm working on some of the special revenue funds and reviewing grants and things. And I understand we have about 2.5 hours from 1 o'clock to about 3:30 where we'll be able to hit the general fund and try to get through that. The one thing that I've seen on the subtotals I sent you is that the main impact to the general fund is basically payroll. If you look at the overall wrap up, it's about 92% of the fund increase. So just keep that in mind and look forward to seeing you this afternoon. We're also working on payroll, getting that rolled over for next year. We've implemented using salary schedules this year. So while it's still a little time consuming, it's going to set us up really well for future years to be able to make adjustments pretty quickly that'll roll through to all of the staff. And so that's an exciting process improvement for us. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Good, thanks, Erica, and we will see you at 1. All right, Morgan, are you still on the line?
I am, yes. So in a normal year, this would be one of our busier weeks of the year, just preparing for the Livingston Roundup Association and the rodeo that's coming up next week. So a lot of grounds work that needs to be done, especially with how much preparation we did, just uncertainty with if the fairgrounds was going to get flooded last week. We ended up moving a lot of electronics and doing a lot of prep for our buildings. That took a little bit of time to put things back to normal. So just trying to get caught up with grounds work. In addition to that, we have several events coming up today. As you know, there's the Multi-Agency Resource Center event from 2 to 7 getting set up. We also have the Midway West Carnival this weekend. The first day that it'll be open is Thursday and Friday. It's 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, it's open from 2 p.m. until 11 p.m. We also have the Fairgrounds and Parks Board meeting this evening at 5:30 p.m. Originally scheduled in the Rabbit Poultry Barn because of the multi-agency resource center using the exhibit building, but it sounds like we'll now be able to put that meeting into the dining room. So I will put some notices up for people that want to attend. Other than that, just trying to keep volunteers busy. We have new seasonal staff that started, so you'll see some new faces here at the fairgrounds, and looking forward to summer. So
Yeah.
also, if you do, you might hear, so there have been several folks that have been calling the fairgrounds office. Being that it's really only me in the office right now, I have reached out to some other departments and kindly asked them if they could return some of those voice messages for me. So very grateful for that. Right now, I've had the MSU Extension office has returned some voicemails for me. The Chamber of Commerce has returned a lot of calls, and then I'm trying to work with Mark at the museum to see if Bessie Wafer could answer some phones for me occasionally, since she worked at the fairgrounds for 2 years seasonally. So that's kind of the update right now. If people come to the office and you try to get a hold of me and you notice that the office is closed, I'm probably out on the grounds, but there is always a radio sitting in front of the office that people can contact us with. So that's the update.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thank you, Morgan.
Sounds like things are quiet in your world too. All right, let's see. Shannon, are you on the line? You're there?
Don't.
Okay.
Shannon, if I muted you on accident, *6. I muted someone, but I'm not sure who it was.
How about Dr. Desnick? Are you on the line? Okay, I know they're in the EOC, so they may be otherwise occupied. And I know that Lisa is out. Let's see, Greg is out, and Mark is out. So, Kristen, anything before the projects?
Hey, Steve. Yeah, I think I'll, after a heck of a last week, both countywide and personally, I just wanted to give a short philosophical update before I started on my projects. But I just wanted to say huge efforts came to me from a very community-minded crowd, friends and strangers who showed up and helped me with my flooded houses this past weekend. It just reminded me a little bit that there are well-intentioned people in this community who are happy to work together and be good neighbors and to just do better. Super philosophically, I think it's also important for all of us to realize nobody really owns the land on this earth. We're just merely guests, and we should be the best caretakers that we can be, zoning or no zoning. As far as projects, I'm in contact with MDT to see if they will give us some support for Old Clyde Park Road. That road is being hammered because of that bridge closure on Highway 89. I'm also looking into some USDOT grants for bridges. So I need to meet with Matt and Corey soon about the prioritization of bridge projects, which I understand there will be quite a few. And then I am reviewing a lot of FEMA policies and procedures just to effectively report those flood-related expenses for future reports and reimbursement requests.
Okay,
that's all.
That's a lot. Okay. Thanks, Christian. Let's go to project updates, public transportation. Back at you.
Yeah. We were asked during that flooding incident to make sure that we were available to take people to Bozeman for that emergency housing over there. So we did have drivers on call for that. On Sunday, LHC asked us to also be available if they had to evacuate again because of rising waters to take patients out of the hospital. We didn't end up having to do that, but we were on call again.
Yeah, good. Thanks for being available, though. That's good to see. All right, Shields Valley Communication Project.
I have some emails to dig through, but I think everything's moving forward as we planned.
Good, good. Growth policy implementation. Mike, are you still on the line?
Yep, I am. You guys made a decision to postpone updating or starting the update process until after the legislative session, or 1 year from, I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. So I think we can probably pull this off until that time, unless I won't really have anything until we move forward.
Okay, well, let's pull it for the time being, and then when it comes back, we'll come back with it.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Cross Mountain Road, nothing new from my perspective.
Nothing new here.
Okay. Cybersecurity network upgrades.
I think I'll get with Erica next week and just see where we're at. That should be getting close to being done at this point.
Yeah, that's my sense too. Thanks, Kristen. Gardner Capital Improvements Plan.
I think that team over at Staley is working on the rough draft as we speak.
Great. Minimum allocation infrastructure projects.
I think the senior center is presenting its third go around next Tuesday that I've got to get on the agenda for you guys to review, and that is all we have right now for minimum allocation.
Okay. Thanks, Kristen. Public comment for the above projects. Meeting minutes. They look good to me.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of April 7th, June 7th, and June 2nd.
I second.
Seconded. Discussion, corrections, comments?
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you, Carly. Yeah. All in favor, aye. Aye. Motion passes. Consent items, daily correspondence, public comments. Mr. Tinsley.
I have nothing.
You okay? Mr. Berg. Where do you start? I have
Where to
4
start?
pages of notes I could go through, but
Yeah, I'll start with, I went around Cook City and Silvergate over the weekend. I reached out to Donna and said I'd just like to come see what's going on and check in with folks. And while I was on the road, she organized a town hall. So I showed up to realize that there was a town hall at 2:00 with ice cream and Wyoming DOT and the local fire chief and the local pastor and Park County law enforcement and a room full of people. You can see the stress and the anxiety and the emotion in their faces, and you can feel it in the room, just like in Gardner. I suspect just like in Livingston, this is a big deal. People have been hit hard, and I don't know anybody who would have woken up last Monday morning would have thought we'd be in as good a position as we are today. And it's not a great position, but it's stunning how much work is been done by neighbors, by our partners, by our county staff, and there's a lot left to do. This is going to be a really rough summer, but yeah, we're doing our best and we're checking in with folks out there. I've had dozens of conversations with locals and several with the media. That seems to be a thing these days. In active communication with the Wyoming Department of Transportation, the superintendent, regarding Cook City, Silvergate access and other matters. Also in active communication with the Forest Service regarding Cook City, Silvergate, the forest closure. Stand by for some news there if it isn't already out. And was able to chat with the governor, Senator Daines, and FEMA at the event at Gardner last week. There's a lot going on, but in addition to our local capacity to see I forget the name of the FEMA official that was in Livingston, but they were top of the food chain, I believe, in FEMA, and a high-ranking official down here in Gardner too. So one day in Park County last week, just a few days after this event, we had the governor, both senators, FEMA, National Guard on the ground, and the park has already received $50 million and redirected construction assets that were working on Craig Pass to create some connectivity between Gardner and Mammoth. That's pretty significant efforts. And Summer started at 3:14 this morning. Today is the longest day of the year, and we kick off a new season. So, you know, I love this stuff. We got a fresh start. It's summer in Montana. Buckle up and step up.
All right. Well, I think we had similar weeks. I had communications with a large number of residents and business owners all the way from Cook City to north of town here at 89 North. And also, I think we were kind of splitting up duties last week and had a good conversation with Montana Department of Commerce Director Osterman. And I think he's given us some things to look at. Senator Tester was in town along with FEMA Director Criswell on Friday. It was good to see them. Also, Governor Gianforte, spoke with him a couple of times. Custer County National Forest Supervisor Erickson. Boy, too many people to keep track of. And I'm hoping the media takes advantage of the opportunity to retool their approach from going from the natural disaster to human factors. And I think we're edging in that direction, so it's good to see. And I won't bore you with the rest of it. It's just still in process. So, Commissioner comments, Mr. Tinsley.
Well, thanks to Park County crews for sure. Road Department, solid waste, you name it, they really stepped up. I'm very proud of what we did in Park County for sure. And also thank you to the commissioners, because you and Bill were sharing trips to Gardner and attending meetings, and really appreciate it. So thank you very much. That's it.
All right, thanks. Mr. Berg.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks all around for so many people who have stepped up. Things we know about, things we don't know about. And I neglected to mention that we also had 2 cabinet secretaries in Gardner last week. We've got a sharp focus on us right now. We need to turn that into more progress.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I had a good meeting. I think, Bill, the meeting you had in Cook City the other day was very similar in tone and purpose, I think, to the one I had in Gardner on Thursday of last week. People have some, understandable concerns about what their financial viability is going to be over the next year. But I think with the $50 million reallocation of funds toward the road access, I think that they're going to feel a lot better about that. And we got not much else to add. I did have several communications with the acting city manager, and we did formalize an MOU in terms of our agreement in terms of solid waste handling and debris handling. So we sent that to her for her signature. I signed it under the emergency order. And I want to give a huge note of appreciation to all the folks who are involved and continue to be involved in both the IC and the EOC. A lot of agencies working together, and it seemed to be pretty seamless in terms of working with our groups, Public Works, law enforcement, and it was just, I could not be prouder of those folks. So it was great to see. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
I second the motion.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned at 6:21.